What's up everybody, Barrett here with Specca Tech. Welcome to the channel. Have you ever wondered what your room calibration is doing for your system and your room? Well, I was wondering the exact same thing, so I decided to investigate a little bit further and take measurements with REW to see exactly what my room calibration software, which is ARC or Anthem Room Correction, was doing for my room and my system. So what I did is I compared the current official version of ARC, which I called Old ARC, because there is a new beta version of ARC, which I call New ARC, and I'm going to compare those two, as well as comparing measurements without any ARC, having the ARC files removed from my AVM70. So obviously every room is going to be different, and in this case my room is a little bit challenging, I guess, or complicated. So the home that we have is a 4-level split, and this level is open to 2 other levels at the back of the room. It's 25 feet long by about 17 feet wide. That does narrow a little bit due to a storage room and a bathroom, and then with 8-foot ceilings. So my room is pretty challenging, so I am going to have some pretty ugly measurements, so keep that in mind. And also, my room is not treated yet. I do plan on doing that in the very near future here, but I do have a few other projects that I want to get done first. First of all is the electrical system. I need to get some 20 amp circuits put in because of my subwoofers. I am tripping breakers, so I need to get that done first. But treating my room is on the list of things to do, but right now it's not treated, so keep that in mind when we take a look at these measurements. So let's hop over to my computer. I'll open up my REW files and I can show you the measurements that I took with and without ARC and between the new and old versions of ARC. So let's hop over. Alright guys, so now that we are over on my computer, you can see that I have my REW file open already with some measurements off to the left. So first things first, let's get a baseline to see what my room looks like without any calibration, just with the levels and the distances set. And here it is, guys. It's pretty ugly. We have this huge chasm here that is a wide variety of frequencies, all the way from 34 hertz, and then it starts lifting up again around 119 hertz. So a pretty ugly chasm here that is just ruining my frequency response. Again, guys, my room's pretty challenging, so it is what it is. It's ugly, but it's my room, so it's my ugly room. So that's what it looks like without any ARC. But one thing I want to point out before we compare the actual room calibration files is that turning ARC off in the web UI, so let's say you go to that specific input and you turn ARC off, or Anthem Room Correction, it's not the same thing as completely removing ARC from your unit itself by going to ARC Genesis and asking it to remove the ARC files. So this is what the measurement looks like by completely removing the ARC files. This is what the measurement looks like by turning ARC off in the web UI itself. So as you can see, it is a different measurement, or different response. So obviously there is some processing still happening even though you turn ARC off in the web UI. So I just wanted to point that out. It's something interesting that I found. So when you are turning ARC off in your web UI, you're not completely turning ARC off. There's still some sort of processing happening there. Just to let you know, I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, so let's compare it with the old version of ARC, or the current official version of ARC that you can download from the official page. So this is it. So I ran a fresh measurement. This is completely fresh. It wasn't an old measurement or anything. And I want you to keep in mind that I did not make any changes to my preferences. I didn't increase the base or anything. I just let ARC do its thing and then took a measurement. So here you can see it obviously did make some improvements. I'm not sure what happened here with the low end around 14 hertz or so. There's this little drop here. Not sure why that happened, but obviously ARC's doing something there with the calibration. And then it starts to lift up here over around the 34 hertz, and we still have this big null, but it's not as wide, around 57 hertz. And then we have a pretty big one here, which ARC obviously kind of messed this frequency up, but it's 112 hertz here, and it drops down to 70 decibels. So pretty big drop on that null, but it's not as wide of a chasm. It's not this huge chasm that we have here. So it did make improvements. It did flatten out the top end a little bit. We still have some little peaks and nulls here, but they're not as bad, and it's not as lifted here in the high frequencies as it is in the low frequencies. So if I remove this line, you can see it is somewhat flatter than the previous line. It's better, but again, my room's challenging, so it's never going to be perfect, but it's definitely better. All right, so now that we know what it looks like with the old version, or the current official version of ARC, let's see what it looks like with the new version, or the beta version. One thing I do want you guys to ignore is the volume differences. Every time you run ARC, it always is a little bit slightly different for some reason, and it's also different than the system with no ARC on it. But ignore the volume differences and just look at how flat the line is and the peaks and nulls. That's kind of what we're focusing on here. So this is what it looks like where ARC did the auto phase alignment. So this null here isn't quite as bad, so it made a little bit of an improvement, but it did widen it out a little bit. And then this null here got much worse. Not sure what happened here, but it did drop a lot deeper. Yeah, so I guess the line here does look slightly flatter because it doesn't have this kind of sunken low end and then a little bit lifted here and then a little bit sunken high end again. I guess the line does look somewhat flatter than the previous version or the official version of ARC. So it does make some improvement there, I guess, because I do like a little bit of a house curve. So I do like my low end to be a little bit lifted over the high end. So we do get a little bit of that here. And of course, ARC is very customizable. It's a great piece of software. So I can make adjustments to this to make it suit my preferences and my sound preferences. So, but this is with ARC without any adjustments on my end. This is just it doing its own thing. It did improve the line. Obviously, it does look a little bit better. But one thing I want to show you is I decided to do my own phase adjustment. It is a pain in the butt, and it does take a lot of time because it's trial and error, and I do have 3 subwoofers to adjust. But I wanted to show you that if you do your own phase adjustments, you can actually get slightly better results than what ARC does. This is the beta version of ARC, so obviously there is going to be improvements made, so keep that in mind. But if you do your own adjustments right now, you can get slightly better results. So as you can see with this purple line, it does flatten things out a little bit on the low end, and then this null isn't quite as bad as this null here with the red line. And then this null is a huge improvement, so we're at 77 decibels versus 63. So I did bring this null up quite a bit. It is still there, but it's not as bad. And I do find that this line is considerably flatter than this line. So as you can see at the peak here, it's 104. It's a pretty big gap between the rest of the frequency response. Whereas if you remove that and put it on this one at about 100 decibels, the rest of the frequency response is much closer to that line for the most part than that previous line. So doing your own phase adjustment is worthwhile to look into. If you guys know what you're doing there, definitely look into doing that. All right, so let's bring up all the lines together. So let's just remove my own phase adjustment and see what ARC did. So this is the new beta version of ARC. This is the old version of ARC, and this is without ARC. So obviously, it still is an improvement using ARC regardless of which version you use, because this chasm over here without ARC is pretty big. So definitely worthwhile to use the room calibration software. It does improve things. It does make the system sound better. One thing that I find with ARC in particular is that it does trim the bass a little bit too much for my liking, so I do find myself adjusting that and increasing the bass. But that's what's great about ARC, is that you do have those choices available to make some customizations to your frequency response. But obviously, this software is going to be different than other softwares out there. I don't know what Odyssey's doing, so if you are running a Marantz or Denon product or something with Odyssey XT32, you're not necessarily going to see similar results. But I am curious to know if any of you guys out there have done this exact same thing of measuring your system before and after room calibration. So if you have done that, drop your comments down below and let me know what results you got. Were they better? Were they worse? Were they similar? And regardless of the software that you're using, even if you're using Dirac or Odyssey, I'm still interested to know what your results were. So please do leave your comments down below. Hopefully you guys did find this video helpful. I actually found it quite helpful for myself to see what my room calibration is doing in my room, and it definitely solidified the fact that I want to get some room treatments to see if I can help improve this frequency response even further. So I'm looking forward to room treatments. First, I have a couple projects that I want to get done, but in the near future, I do want to treat my room to see if I can get these responses even better. Please consider subscribing, guys. Tick the bell icon if you do, and please take just one little second to hit that like button. I truly would appreciate it. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.